Mephistopheles' Manifesto. Prepare while others are sleeping. Build while others are questioning. Act while others are analyzing. Stand while others are falling. Plot while others are self-deceiving. Toil while others are playing. Respond while others are mulling. Achieve while others are dabbling. Execute while others are lounging. Believe while others are doubting. Persevere while others are running. Perceive while others are talking. Dionysia. Burning pentacles in the sky, a cosmic, satanic, singular coil on high. On the winds of the witch carry, arena of arcane art bestiary. Emblem of the dark cornucopia, take me back to Dionysia. Shambling on into the afterlife, tombish trance-geist, a feral fatalism in common, purse as skeletal, our chateau coffin, a mind of many mirrors, sycophant of jovial jeers, crazed and insane. Out of lightning, in the crazed whirlwind appears Morgana. Take me back to Dionysia. All-seeing eye, scorched, sewn shut, extinguish the lamp of the universe. Likeness alludes to luminary treasons. My body is a temple of demons. Dracul booze and other things to an awakened Pandora. Take me back to Dionysia. And I do like my poetry, and that was a short version of something that is amazing from Black Magic is Might, one of my premier occult books that has been selling well. I did an impromptu signing at the Occult bookstore about 20 minutes ago, and I was surprised to find people there. I met a amazing, just really interesting person. This girl can play 40, or not 40, but a lot of instruments and a violin, and was telling me about this play that they had done impromptu to Ilana, and I was trying to investigate it a little more, but she said that people in this closet or space, really tight area, they conducted this motif, almost a Persephone motif descent myth. This girl came out in her furry coat, like a fur dress, and dragged this other one out and all this, and it wasn't sexualized. It was just really high potent magic, and the intensity today is going to increase, people. For my day, it's been amazing, and that's no exaggeration. Signed all those books over there, and having people in there was a lot of fun. Nobody knew about it, but I was shocked to see people actually there in the Occult bookstore here in Chicago, which has been around for about 70 years. I knew Russell, the owner, previously. I knew his daughter as well. But it's turned over to a new set of people, which are just fine, and the store is located just down the street from the studio. So it makes it an odd singular, or not singular, but coincidence of synchronicity again. So along this road here, not to even really give too much away, but because I don't want stalkers at my door, but Milwaukee Avenue, the hipster highway, whatever you want to call it, where beautiful people are. And there are really people that are, a lot of artists, snuck in around here. They has been for 20 years, but still lingering on. But you have this Occult bookstore, which I love. And then you have one of my favorite cafes right down the road from that, which I love, the Lovely Cafe. And I'm just not really plugging for them. That's where I attend, and that's where I enjoy it. And it's interesting having it all right here, how it all came together right here in the random coincidence of our synchronicity. And it's just been kind of one of those amazing days. This evening we are going to have a super celestial event which will charge any spell, any magic projection or psychic intuition you may have. The sun is just dead. Some kind of pulsar or something rare event, and we're going to be inundated with radiation probably about 4 a.m. I do watch celestial events. As I am obviously a black magic practitioner, I will be projecting something, although I'll probably be out dancing for a tad and then get some other film stuff to do. But this evening is the time, people. So if you got something you want, and you got a projection in mind, girlfriend, or you want to get, some kind of deal going, or you want an enemy destroyed, the sun is going to be helping out hugely tonight with that celestial event. There's also been some other things that I've been monitoring in the skies. A lot of alien activity. There was some alien activity going on. Probably has a lot to do with some of these pulsars, as I do believe that obviously the aliens come through consciousness, but I do think that the alien entities are also coming through doors or veils in our current realm of existence. And they may actually be smaller than, we perceive them, or different types, obviously millions of different species out in the universe. As we have all these different species just here on this one planet, it would be improbable to rule out the different types of species throughout the universe. The ones that are currently probably coming through now are a lot smaller, so they can break through the veil. Although their machines are probably large, but they themselves are smaller. So it makes it interesting, because I know that some people out in California, there was this thing, was random, not really random, but a sporadic amount of alien activity was happening just over New Year's, and it's continuing on, and the footage has been amazing. I was speaking with some friend of mine, not some, but a friend of mine last night, who didn't really believe in aliens. And I can understand it. I mean, we live in our Earth. Everything that has ever occurred has happened here on Earth. We're terrestrial-based beings. And unless you have some kind of contact with them, or something, remote viewing or remote seeing of some types, as I do believe they come through consciousness, you're going to be a doubter. I was not really, I didn't have any interest in aliens whatsoever. And I don't really have alien interest, although I am a sci-fi writer and a sci-fi filmmaker through my scripts and so on, through the Hollywood and all this. But, they kind of, they come in contact with me in various ways. I've done readings for individuals and, felt and seen alien activity. And it just kind of arrives, a lot of what I was discussing yesterday about how this alien intuitives, they kind of just find you in the reality of things. It's not something you really have to really look for. If you're looking for it, you're probably not going to find it. It's that old cliche thing, but it's hard to understand. But these things will kind of just happen to you. You have a dream, you'll see something that doesn't add up, some kind of event or something, and that's how it kind of, you stumble onto alien activity. But there's been a lot of it. There's going to be a lot tonight. So if you are into that kind of thing, keep a lookout, because I feel they're around, especially in the Chicago region. They're probably coming through the vortex, the lake vortex out, probably just about 2 miles from us. There's some kind of veil or gate or something they come through. There's definitely a lot of activity going on tonight. It's rare for me to speak of these kind of things. I'm not really an updater, as I am just Winter Lake on the Pentacle-Hours live from 5 to 7. I typically discuss anything I really want, philosophy or aliens or anything, but I don't really update on times and what might be occurring, but tonight is a good night. It may have a lot to do with this year, because this year is poised to be amazing. For anyone in the know who is into witchcraft or black magic or whatever form you're going on, as last year was kind of in the doldrums for a lot of people. They've been emailing me and saying that they're dragging their past into their present. Well, I can only urge you to just drop the bags at the airport and take off. You know, I have a girlfriend of mine that is dragging on all this stuff from the last year. And I just tell her, it's like, yes, I am a point of anxiety. Let it go. You know, it's not a relationship thing. It's just I'm giving some advice. It's like if you have some baggage or some dude or some just nonsense from that 13, it's time to forget about it. You know, that death has arrived. That solace has to be achieved. You've already crossed over into another time, and what you brought over with you is here. And, you know, and if you have brought something over that you wanted to leave back there, then you need to cut it off and leave it back there. And it has to do with all kinds of philosophy, even with magic. If you are on a new magical way or a left-hand path or an aspect of your new realities that you need to experience, then you need to cut it off and go. That death has come, and that a new death may arrive later. These changes we are in our synchrony, and we do dwell in that. And true, indeed, we are a summation of our own decisions. So you are the decider of your fate. If you want to drag in 13 into 14, be my guest. You also get a lot of gray hair over it. It's a waste of time. It's not doing anything for you. And as of this day right now, we are looking at some amazing celestial things this evening, this January 9, 2014 time, and it will peak at 4 a.m. And as I said, I rarely update, so you're getting something really cool from me. As I am a practitioner, I do banishments, curses, cast on people, and remove curses. I also do, obviously, tarot readings and psychic work. I found the missing and the murdered, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. You know, but I'm not egoist about it. I don't go around like saying I'm the man in the room or some BS like that. I don't have time for people like that. But, you know, I do want to help my listeners out, and people that are interested in witchcraft and stuff. They have an opportunity tonight to turn around some things. You can sever the cord tonight too. You know, if you cast some spell on somebody that's dragging you down, you know, maybe you wanted that person or relationship, now's the time to do it. If you want to, you know, have that job and get the upper hand at work, then now's the time to do it through a certain, obviously, maybe some accoutrements of the occult and candles and meditations. You know, it's almost like some kind of solstice arrived with the amount of radiation that we will be inundated with. You know, obviously most people are going to sleep right through it as these celestial events do happen. But if you are a practitioner, now is the time.
Here, can't you feel it? This whole room, everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules. Everything is one. I am one with what I am. I'm part of it. Can't you see it?
What is life? Is it all a giving? What is life? Is it only living? Who am I? Is this for real? I only know how foolish I feel. What is life? Is it all a giving? What is life? Is it only living? I go through every day, trying to face tomorrow, trying not to run away with a
Dagger Coffin. Existential crisis encreatured, adulterous looms to stalk. Coaxed cynicism to mysticism, danger sought, a cloak and wand DEMON-O-CRACY. I have lost the wager of sin, here in my dagger coffin. Suspension in perfect distrust, clasps starting to rust, by chain encircled of the foreseen, the random and the sudden, here in my dagger coffin. In your hair ensnared, a spell turned back upon me, subtle frame beguiled by witchery, shards in the skeletal closet. Old deaths give way to the new, messianic in the mesmerism, here in my dagger coffin. Town criers, burners, and dyers drone on for hours, a cocktail culture of the failed powers. Litany to spoken lost in action, here in my dagger coffin. Hubris too high, unrepentant, voices kicked in the head. You can't wake up, you're dead. Gloat on, unseen torturer. Lament in the sordid conspirator. Reach for the sky of this artificial casino. The plastic society is dealt you in, here in my dagger coffin. At arm's length and eternity away, out with the light and the day, I hone, fixate, incant, and pray. In solitary, unholy surmise, I shall drink from your higher price wine. Speak thy curse, Druidess. Cruelty is bliss. I rise sky-clad, antediluvian, here in my dagger coffin. And I do enjoy my poetry. I've been writing for only a few years, but I'm pretty good at it. I am Winter Lake at winterlake.com, and you are listening live to the Pentacle-Hours. I'm going to have a guest on here in a little bit. We're going to chat about philosophy in general. He's a pretty good guy. We've gotten into some heated discussions. He's more an altruist, and as you know, I am a nihilist. So you get into the fabric of the two of oppositions of clashing. And I hate arguing my points because I'm so steadfast on my aspect, my skewed view of reality and things to come. Also being a remote viewer, a psychic, and so on, I've seen into the future. And so I have that ability to, tell, by different things that will occurring in society, as Satanism and witchcraft is the fastest growing religion in the world, that a lot of altruism is going to fall away. Like I said yesterday, man deprived is beast. A perfect example is some of these things that have occurred globally, and as our population explodes, we will begin to eat and feed on each other. I'd like to not be that, but man lives to kill. That's his nature. It's something that has just been. It's not something I want to advertise or say that I'm seeking to convert thousands of people into some kind of nihilism. This belief system of mine has just arrived itself upon me. I am a courteous and nice person. I don't go around screwing people over. But society in general, again, deprived even of its fossil fuels, will become ravenous demons. It'll be this me culture accentuated to this 10th power of consumer slave reality, and then they begin to turn on each other. And that is some of the clashing that occurs when you see society for what it is. Rats in a cage and so on is a very dark, space to be in. And as a satanic black magic practitioner, I kind of just call a spade a spade. So I hope he comes in. We're going to have a little discussion on those issues. Also some contrarianness with religion. We might even discuss the Holy Bible today, which, in my opinion, is one of the most bloodthirsty doctrines that have been written by about 40 sets of hands, plus all of the revisionist material that has been done on that. I would not put your faith in a book or me or any person or an individual. I would put your faith in yourself. And I think that those are practitioners or individuals that are listening to me now know this for a fact, that they could perceive this as self-worship. I don't think it's self-worship. If you do self-worship, it's important to keep your ego in check. There are many different aspects of worship, theistic and other things that I've spoken on in previous shows. Exterior from you, forces as, the universe, or using that as a fulcrum or an antenna for projections of your power. That's all relative as well. Then we have our science fiction that will soon become science fact, which is something that is evolving as we speak with the mapping of the brain and a series of other events that are occurring in the exterior community of individuals that are seeking the satanic singularity. And these changes are ongoing, and these changes are coming, and whether you like it or not, it is choosing you. You do not have to choose it. It does not require belief to succeed. Society is in a lot of ways dwelling on paper money. Probably in the next 10 years is going to grind to a halt if we continue at this current rate of inversion, which our structure, a government order, which is kind of bringing down upon us. But this over-lending issue with China is going to come back, and America will eventually probably collapse into Chinese receivership or something thereof. Got a lot of feedback on my readings of my recent occult erotica book, Black Magus Excelsis. People really like it. I really like the feedback. I've got a few negative comments on it. It's different for me. It's not philosophy. Some of my philosophy is ingrained within the writing material as it evolves, and it is a lucid experiment, a lucid writing trance experience. And I've spoken about that on yesterday's show, talking about how allowing yourself to flow with it, allowing yourself to arrive, as opposed to something that is forced, or you're doing it to fill a hole, or, you're just going, from one thing to another, so on and so on. As most writers do, they're forcing, things to happen. They're forcing the writing. It's a thing where, again, not egoist, but I don't have a writer's block issue. True, if you're having a writer's block issue, force is good to a point. It can be very harmful, and you can suffer headaches, especially if you're being projected against to something or you're having exterior stresses. Writing too has to have a space where stress is non-existent, or you could use it as an escapism tool. But writing for me is, rarely an event where I have writer's block. I have a catalogs of things that need to be done that it's kind of almost overwhelming. And I see a lot of people that I speak with, not a lot, but I speak with people, as I said about my writing group, yes, not my writing group, but a writing group that I have, in and out of, or so on and so on. But, and we were chatting a little bit about this writer's block issue. Writer's block, yes, you can overcome it through, forcing it or something. But really, I think the best way to overcome writer's block is take yourself out of your environment. There's probably something in your environment that is keeping you from doing it, that is keeping your mind in this block. If you are a writer, probably just want to take yourself out of it. It's the same thing with painting, I used to have this one space, and it seemed to be wrong with me how, because I'm paint too. And so the painting was just kind of against me. I felt fought against. And it actually, I hate painting at this point. It's brought nothing but headaches to me, and so on and so on. But, and I've abandoned it pretty much altogether. But when I did do it, you have to have all these things squared off and all these things perfect. And and so on and so on. And it might even be that with writing. So if you are experiencing a block that way, you could probably overcome it just by, escaping your environment somehow. But it's easier said than done. I mean, we are all creatures of where we are. We're not rich or something where we just pick up and go like, oh, I'm going to be here. We're not all got it like that. Some of us do. I have an ability to do that. I've taken myself out of spaces and, to get things accomplished in regards to getting something written. But I suggested that to some people in the writers group who were having writer's block, because they're like, well, Winter, how are you able to write all this? And, you blah, blah, 10 books in short order and all this. And I'm just like, well, I sit down and actually do it. And, I just overcome a lot of my travail with my space. I like to live in compression, so you have some of that going on. And it does really just take a thing where you sit down and actually just do it. But, after altering your environment can go a long way as well. I received a couple more dreams. These were really bizarre. I might do some interpreting on these. There was one that came in that talked about a woman, again, that met herself in the dream. Like she had come into contact again with herself. And then when she was meeting herself, it was like she couldn't really make herself out, or was some like deceased sister of hers. Then there was like this wall that she melted into, and the sister kind of pushed her, and in the dream it's much more expansive, and I'm being brief on it. But right away, some things in this dream, and in the Pentacle-Hours, as you can see, I'm a free-flowing forum. I have some things that I wish to discuss, so I move this way, and so I'm going into all different topics as a pentacle, and we're moving around in a universal circle. So now I'm discussing some dreams quickly. Not quickly, as much as I want, since it's my show, blah, blah. Right away, some of the things that stuck out at me in this dream particular was this anathema anxiety, that it possibly was her doppelganger in this dream, possibly some kind of element fighting her in the dream. It was some kind of thing that has been left undone. Maybe some kind of sister issue or something that was there, or it was an issue even with herself, some kind of internal struggle. The thing that actually stuck out as well in this dream was being pushed into this wall and then merging with it. That clearly, for me as a dream interpreter, expresses that there is something that has to be handled. There's something in complete denial that, you're being shoved into this thing, and it's like overcoming you with all this intensity. And then down in the dream, she couldn't get out of this wall. She felt one with this wall, and so on and so on. And again, I've said this before, with these dreams that I received in the email, they may not be dreams. They could just be someone's imagination sending me things that are just fun to hear me talk about. But we still, if that is the case, and we take our dream thing with a grain of salt, if that is the case, we can still get things out of it. It's just like reading a fiction story. I don't really like to read too much fiction, although with Black Magus Excelsis, I am writing occult fiction based loosely on my life experience and intermixed with embellishments of supernatural phenomena. But, even if we read a fictional piece, we're taking things out of it. So you piece it apart and you can learn different things. So even in these dreams, if they are invented by the people that tell them to me, I tend to like to have real dreams. So if you do want to send me one, send me real ones to wolfloki@yahoo.com. That's WOLFLOKI@yahoo.com. And I'll interpret it on the air. And we can go through it. I like real ones. If you want to make one up, you can do that too. And I read them, and I go through them, and I comb out some of the ones that kind of fascinate me. You can also reach me at winterlake.com. That's always a quick avenue for that. I'm going to have another guest on Monday, amazing person, E.O. Keating. if you want to tune in for that. He is a very powerful writer as well of the occult. So him and I are going to be conversing. That is going to be like two of the most interesting people in modern times having an occult discussion. Then later on that week, we're going to have Jenny on from Ireland. She's my good buddy. Again, two engaging individuals in an intense philosophical discussion. And I hopefully those two things will happen. And I rarely plug my future events, people, because I'm in the now. Kind of like what Cleopatra says. I live in the now and I live in the moment. The past is dead to me. Let's move on and so on. To a point, with me. Because again, even as I preached, let go of 13, still I have some things that I set in motion myself too, ever being the contrarian, that are coming along into 14 as well, which is fine. Maybe business, maybe some other things that just need to be resolved. But, yeah, I'm going to have some interesting guests on next week. And if you want to listen in, continue to. And I am Winter Lake with the Pentacle-Hours. I'm Winter Lake at winterlake.com. You're listening live, 5 to 7, Monday through Friday, I think, Central Standard Time. So, yes, if you're in Los Angeles, you are listening at 3 o'clock. I think, I don't know. Might be going there in a few days, so I'll figure out that whole time thing for another reality. So my guest has arrived, and as I had announced a little earlier today, I'd like to just discuss some cult reality that's going on in our society and altruism. Mike, what is overcoming the society with cultism?
Well, I guess we have to talk about what cult is first, and I think this, has to do with specific groups of people. And it's about how ideologies are reinforced. And it's about when people kind of disassociate themselves from diverse groups of people and they tend to flock with only one specific group of people that has a very similar ideology. Those ideas could kind of reinforce themselves, and if you don't have an outside perspective to kind of ground yourself, then people could fall into different fictitious belief systems that aren't necessarily true.
But isn't that what's happening with society? Aren't we all just being cudgeled into our own opinions? Like social networking, we are all grouped in with what we want to hear bounced back at us. Like when we're on our social networking, even Google has codified us in a lot of ways. In the way that, like, we'll do a search engine, and then everything we receive will be spit back out at us what we want. Like, I've searched for these pairs of shoes, and so now I just get these shoes. That's generally society, isn't it? Aren't we just herd creatures or something?
Well, I think one force to recognize, like the predominant force that's shaping our culture, I think is the mainstream media. And to me, this is a form of psychological warfare. This is a way to keep the population in control. And I think that human beings are vulnerable to information, or we're just receptive to information. And I think that receptiveness, or, the vulnerabilities of our psyche is being attacked. There's different institutions that have come down and they've really scientifically analyzed, just how people could be manipulated emotionally, psychologically. And they use that to, create a consumer culture where people are very materialistic, greedy, selfish. And I think that's the predominant force that's kind of shaping where we're at today. But I don't necessarily think that that's the human condition to be greedy or materialistic. I think that we're neutral. We could be swayed either way. But if the predominant force, the voice of our society through the TV, the radio, how they market people on the internet, billboards, advertisements, just the music culture and movie culture, this really shapes the way that people think. And I think that if there was an equal force promoting, altruism and altruistic ideals, then people could just as easily become, more compassionate, empathetic towards people, and have that kindness and generosity and love. Is about what's being nurtured. And I think that our society right now isn't nurturing the goodness. It's kind of nurturing this parasitic mentality as a way to, maintain the system of control. And I think that's one thing to understand is how these forces are at play, because we have to, think of a way to deactivate that and to counter it with something else. Because if that's the thing that's standing in the way, it's like the gates of consciousness, thinking tactically with how do we move our society forward and get to that point where people are no longer being manipulated by that. There's a certain set of actions that we have to set out to do, and I think it's important to focus on that and recognize that it exists, and then to see, well, what can we do as people to counter that with our own positive media campaigns and try to, shift the paradigm, evolve our consciousness.
It would take a revolution of consciousness. There's too many peddlers of light and promise. These things are so arbitrary. The generalization to say that we could all be, altruistic or nice to each other or turn the other cheek. It's not in the nature of man. We are a mankind that is inherently evil. We're at each other.
We're both evil and we're good. There's love and hate. There's the balance. It's the opposites. And like I said, I think human beings, we could be shifted either way. But if you look at our economic system, capitalism, if you open up a textbook about it, the first thing it teaches is greed as the value, the basis of how we make our decisions. A lot of these college textbooks, they'll just put that out as just a default truism. It's just basis, accepted as truth. But just as people are greedy, people are also generous, people are irrational, are whimsical, are spontaneous. There's this whole variety of human emotions and ideas that characterize human beings. And I don't think you could pigeonhole it into just looking at one quality, but I think that one quality just so happens to be the ideology that's being spread throughout textbooks, through the media, and that's kind of what reinforces our society and our culture to show these characteristics. But at the same time, I think if you opened it up and you look at these other qualities, the beneficial qualities, why not base it on the positive qualities rather than the negative ones? We have an option, and I think if you did teach people that and just reinforce those ideas, that naturally people would align themselves, I guess, in a better way.
But, greed is a motivator. Greed is incentive. It's in our nature to be greedy. We're so adamant about being self-sustained and our our security and everything as a humanity. We're just like beasts in the field. I think it would be counterintuitive to go against ourselves in some kind of altruistic aspect, because if we run out of all of these fossil fuels that we're devouring, we're going to start to devour each other. It's an inevitability. I would like to see mankind rise to this higher consciousness. I just don't think it's going to happen.
But I would argue that greed is not in our own interest. Like you said, if we're just going to devour all of our resources.
That's exactly what we're doing.
So that's greed. That's greed at its finest. So at some point you have to logically and rationally recognize that that's a self-destructive practice.
All of our humanity is a self-destructive practice. Everything man does is inverted. Everything on top of himself. Man has got this innate nature within him. He's like this animistic creature of the field. I mean, how can he be stopped from doing this or whatever? It's in his nature. I don't know why that is. It's just in my philosophy as a predatorial apex creature. But the aspects of altruism are in conflict with that. I think mankind can be passionate and can be loving, but that is so often returned with the arms of war and the whole aspect of the pincer, And I appreciate altruism. I think it's an interesting concept, but it just everything in mankind, from this fracking experiment, which is breaking the world apart and releasing methane towards self-destruction, to the absolute radioactive wasteland that we probably will inevitably become, because as we cannot stave off nuclear war forever, it would be kind of naive to believe we can, to this man in humanity to man. We allow most of the world to starve so we can thrive. We are overpopulating ourselves to oblivion. And if we reach 14 billion people on planet Earth by 2020, our entire wildlife is going to be wiped out. I absolutely agree with you that something has to change. And your altruism is amazing, but we're almost reaching the apex wall where we will have to have a conflict, a revolution, some kind of reality check. We have bordered ourselves in. We are creating these armaments. Revolution is probably just the nature of man as it's been throughout history. Different Romes have risen and fallen, a destructive nature, and we unleash these, magnetic, beautiful forces of darkness, these weapons that we perfect to perfection. The greatest export of America is weapons. It's just a weird thing. As we've reached this echelon of Rome, we're almost at this teetering precipice. And it's just a weird reality.
I guess I'd have to agree with your perspective of where we're at now. It's like I recognize that all these problems exist. They're just as bad as you had mentioned. But I also see that at the same time right now, we truly have the potential to literally change all this, almost overnight. It's not our lack of technology, resources, industry that's preventing it. It's like we really, science and technology is so many years ahead of where we're at today. Like the cutting edge stuff that scientists are dealing with are so far beyond the problems of just trying to feed people and clothe people. It's like we've really technologically have resolved the problems that are holding people in poverty. There's homeless people, starving people. There's 3 billion people around the world without water. That's a constant reality that people are facing. But it's by no means due to lack of our technology and resources. Like that's all solved. And I think what's holding us back is really the mentality that we're stuck in. It's like if people just had this consciousness revolution where we realized that, hey, there's these people in power that they're holding us back.
They are holding us down. And they are governments and structure.
Like just
I agree.
On a basis, this isn't like a conspiracy theory. This is just a fact. You could say it's intentional or unintentional. That's another conversation in itself. But just by fact, they're not actualizing the potential that we have at this moment.
Your boots on the street.
People in the management position, they're failing at their job.
Your boots on the street. When you attack that media, when you went after that media on that, and you were out on the actual streets, you don't just talk, you walk the talk. And 90% of the people you meet talk, and they don't do anything. But when you went out there, and you were out there with Anonymous, and you went there, and you were going after Channel 4, whatever that was, and you were
the mainstream networks.
Well, because it was all nonsense. But I mean, when you went out there, and Anonymous was there, and your Powers was there, and they pulled away from you, they didn't even broadcast you. No one even knew.
And that was the point.
That is the point.
It was to film this kind of experiment as to what would happen if we bring the protest to the media. And that's our story.
That was amazing.
We are upset with the way that they're falsifying the news, lying. It's infotainment. They're talking about this trivial celebrity gossip when there's really important issues. That
I know. 4 locations. It's snowing here, Becky. And, it's nonsense.
And then the fact that you could just flip through 2, 5, 7, 9, 32.
They mirror each other.
It's totally mirrored. Exactly. The breaking stories come out, and they got the sports, the weather.
Scary.
It's you could literally change the channel and hear the same buzzwords being repeated on every single network, regardless of who owns them. And our point for going out and protesting the media was that this is unacceptable. These people have been gifted the airwaves. These are the public airwaves that belong to everyone. This is the broadcasting spectrum, and there's the only reason why they were given, granted permission to utilize the radio spectrum is that they are supposed to maintain a public contract, a public commitment to provide quality and diverse programming, that represents the public interest. And I would argue that just looking, it's self-evident. You just flip the channels and you see the exact same identical cookie-cutter news program on every single station. They are failing in their responsibility that they're supposed to be upholding. So they don't pay any money to utilize the public airwaves. They were just pretty much given to them. And yet they're making billions and billions of dollars.
They are the throne of Clear Channel.
Advertisement.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're taking our public broadcasting spectrum, they've privatized it, monopolized it, and they're profiting tremendously off it. So what we were advocating is we need to, let's revoke these licenses. Why do we let these people have the licenses to our public broadcasting spectrum? And let's have some public control of the public airwaves. So that was the message that we brought to the radio stations and TV networks, all the major networks downtown, NBC, Fox, WGN, ABC, CBS. We covered the whole spectrum of liberal, conservative, right, left. So we weren't just focusing on one, but the whole mainstream media apparatus as a whole. And, we wanted to conduct this experiment and see how would they react by bringing the story of media ownership, media privatization, and bringing this to the media. And obviously what happened is, we have this on video, which is on our Chicago Indie Media website, and you could see that when we're out there protesting, we got the bullhorns,
I know.
We're making a storm out there right in front of the networks, and right downtown, every day they have their news stations right on the first floor so that people could go up in the window And you can kind of wave on camera, and
Right,
if you have
right,
a sign
yeah.
that says "Happy Birthday, Mom," you
Oh,
know, they'll
it's
film
crazy
you,
funny.
and
Yeah,
they'll put you, and they love to get the people waving and having a great time watching the news.
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
But now when we show up with these signs that say, "Hey, report the truth, don't lie, this is lies," you
What
know?
was the chant?
Report the truth, not lies. Report the truth.
No, it was
not
something
lies.
else. It was a
couple of them.
very catchy chant you guys had made.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It was great.
Yeah, Chewy is our chant leader. Definitely. It was always good to have. That's
Yeah,
the
that
part.
chant was amazing. Yeah,
But,
this whole thing about the media.
What happened is they shut us out, so everyone
No, they
else is
did.
standing there. On any other day, they're allowed to stand there and they'll put them on TV. But when we show up with the signs, they close these curtains on us. And we got that on video, so that was kind of
I
interesting
know,
about that
but I
experiment.
wanted you
That's
to
what we were
get that.
expecting.
I wanted you to get the video of the other channel showing up and then driving away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were there in the area, and they got nothing to do. And that's what gets me, is kind of part of my personal motivation, is I do a lot of work with indie media covering the local activism scene in Chicago. And what I see day to day is a lot of people who are doing great work. They're touching on important social justice issues across the spectrum, whether it's homelessness, housing, the environment with fracking or the tar sands, whether it's Citizens United or legalizing cannabis,
there's a lot of
ending the
activities.
prison industrial complex, ending the war, ending drones. There's all these important issues, and they never get any coverage. And when the slight chance that the media does show up to cover it, all they do is they turn on their camera, and I see this. So I'm filming the whole thing. I want to get the entire program
Yes.
and run it raw so that people could get all the information. But what the mainstream media does is they'll go there, they'll set up the camera, they'll record someone clapping, someone's in an emotional face, and they'll have the people talking, but they don't actually let you'll hear about 2 seconds of what they're actually saying, and then the commentator talks about what happened. And then this, you got this news program. You only have a few minutes to get 5 stories out there.
Not
because
even.
You got to get to the commercials. That's the main point you got to get to. So you don't really have time to digest or get into what's really happening. And they just talk over it. They just have this narrative, and it's so short and so fast that the next story pops up, and you've forgotten that ever happened. And you don't get the raw content. The media will set up, if it's a 2-hour program, they'll record for 5 minutes, they'll get their B-roll, their reaction shots, a little bit of commentary, and then that's all they put on there, but you never get the raw story. And that's part of the thing, is these people have very valid, valuable things that the public needs to hear. And if the public heard that, they would be significantly outraged, where you might actually want to go up there and do something to address that. But on the other hand, if you're hearing about Molly Ray Cyrus twerking, or Beyonce,
I know
or
this.
something like
Yeah,
that,
I know
new
that the
Xbox coming out.
commercialization of the news and infotainment is very real. This thing where they just have these snippets can really put somebody in a bad light. They have somebody yelling, but not taking the entirety of the sentence. So they'll hear some 2-word piece of an entire thing that needs to be spoken, and they'll cut that down and they'll paint you in some kind of dark corner. How would you overcome this apathy that is settling in this society? I mean, I just call it sheeple at this point. I mean, it's a sheeple reality. People just want to run home and sit in front of their televisions. I can't even really watch television, but
I guess is looking at all the factors that are causing it, and if we can identify 5 things that cause apathy, how can we look at each of those individual things and address it with some type of proactive response? And that's what I'm all about. Let's do something proactively. If we can see that there's something that's keeping people from participating, what can we do to, counteract that and get someone to begin participating? And, you could look down the list, and there's certain things, that are just simple things that can be done. One is that people don't participate because they're often disconnected. They don't know how to tap in. They think that they're just alone, the only person who's sitting there at their house, and everyone else around them is just some sheeple, and they're turned off, when really you might have a lot of people in your neighborhood that think the same way, but people are just disconnected. We don't know how to tap into that. And so that's something we could do proactively, is how do we kind of get this into people's lives, make it visible, make it something that you could participate in. And that's what we try to do here at
apathy, I know.
the multi-culti space, is just provide a place, like a community center,
yes,
where the people who have these like-minded ideas who are trying to do something positive, we can network with one another, meet each other, and just start making connections, making it happen. And that's one of the things. I guess the other thing about apathy is I think that's where the arts come in. Is sometimes the activist movement is too bland and is too fact-based, and there needs what the mainstream media does great is the sensationalism. They know how to create the tone that makes you want to just tune in. You got to find out what's happening next. And unfortunately, like right now, I don't think activists are making that happen with the same intensity as the mainstream media.
So you're saying that hooks in these things with this sensationalism, this sensory stimulus, is this constant hooking on people. That is a classic tool in the media that they use. So
that's one thing that's drawing people towards the lies, towards the, just the current paradigm that's about control. So how do we utilize that sensationalism and utilize the art as a way to communicate these, like the messages of truth and love and kindness?
But humanity works on crisis. Humanity is driven by crisis. Yeah, it's driven by crisis.
There's no lack of crisis right now.
Yeah, it's all crisis all the time.
But that's the thing is how do we
But really, people are not in crisis.
But how do we make that? I think people are a little bit desensitized and insulated, and they're not quite recognizing it. But I mean, we're no short of crises. It's like, how does this actually?
But it's all these crises are invented
towards, a positive outcome.
But I mean, they're inventing. But people's lives are fine, really. I mean, they're just being inundated with crisis, so it's a horrible thing. They're inventing these things to keep people in this fear state. And who they are is our government structure. The government structures and these borders that are constructed to keep us enslaved. I'm all about liberation. I'm all about Luciferian liberation in this aspect. It's just, I detest it. You get into these structures like we were discussing the Holy Bible and we were discussing this Quran thing. These books are really people putting their faith in this book, and it's riddled with all this contrarian nature. And that's like a conditioning control tool, in my opinion. And it's not even about Christian bashing or bashing some religion, but these aspects are so, inundating us as a society, and they're influencing us, and we're driven from one crisis point to another, and we're a creature of suffering, and everything is made to suffer, when really it's just this sensory stimulus prison, and we're hypnotized by our television.
And, that's part of the thing. It's hard for people to get grounded. People are so tired and exhausted. Working class people, you get up in the morning, you got to wake up early, get yourself ready, take the bus.
Money.
Spend an hour just getting to your job.
I know. You're exhausted before you arrive.
8.5-hour day, you come back, you're tired. You want to get something to eat, you want to lay down, you got to wake up the next morning, you got kids. So people are so busy in this cycle that it's hard to step outside of that.
It's nearly damn impossible, don't you think?
Especially when you got all the drugs that people are getting out of the pharmaceuticals.
Psychotropic medications.
You got the TV just droning people out. That's the circumstance we're in.
Yeah, that's a reality, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a real deal. A lot of these people that want to live in these lofty aspects, you're not being one of them because your boots on the street. I mean, you're hardcore, man. And
I guess that's the thing is how do you, that's the question we have to face is how do we get people out of that mind frame?
They don't want to break their stability, but they will. The stability will break as our system breaks down, as things become so inflated and expensive and overtaxed, and they're, we are kind of caught in that cage.
But I believe that in itself isn't necessarily the answer. I think that we're going towards this collapse. I mean, everything is just coming to the threshold. If you look at our economics, our environment, our infrastructure. But what often, you brought this up before, is that these crises are always manipulated by the people in charge. Alex Jones calls it problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, there's this public reaction, and sure enough, they got the answer all ready to roll for you. And so that's what I think is like,
create
they
the
say,
virus,
don't let a good
supply the
crisis
cure.
go to waste, is what they say. And but they're prepared. I think that they have all the game plans. And when I say they, I mean kind of the people in charge.
Yeah,
I think
it's the people in our government structure.
Really trying to pull the bottom out of our economy. Like, why else would you put us $14 trillion in debt? That doesn't really
We're
make
never
sense.
going to bury that as an American. How in the heck are we ever going to get out from that? It's
Well, once again, it's all about belief too, because that's what it comes down to. It's like if we believe that we are somehow indebted to these people and we follow through and we work to pay them off and accept it as true,
yeah, right.
then yeah, we're going to be in that a long time. But if people all of a sudden realize, wait a second, we actually have all the technology, resources, and industry in order to sustain our planet and have an abundance of all essential resources for all people created with minimal waste, minimal loss, in a sustainable fashion. All these things are at our fingertips right now. I think we got to, if we could just somehow bypass this corrupt and parasitic control system, the management system of our infrastructure, the management of our economy. Right now it's obviously corrupt, it's obviously failing, it's flawed, and that's what I'm proposing is we need to develop an alternative so that we could direct our energy towards a system that's actually going to benefit us. Because right now there's no alternative on the table, so people are swept up into all this energy we're devoting through our work, our resources, our efforts. It's all being sucked up. We're being put into debt, and we're not getting anything in return. It's just
by our
amazes me.
overlords, by these people in the higher echelon of government.
At the same time,
they're
it's like
selling down the people.
We have the ability to, just pull out and be like, listen, okay, that's one option. We could, continue perpetuating the system of self-destruction. All right, that's one thing.
Interesting.
Or what if we just pulled out entirely, developed our own model, and prototype it, develop it, find a way to build consensus and real democracy between people.
Yes, you and I are in complete agreement on this denial of false truth. Because it is false truth. People believe in some kind of truism that doesn't exist.
It's really just about the belief. That's what I think. That's why the media is so important, because that's the gatekeeper in all this. That's the thing that needs to change. We have all the physical, material resources needed to fix our problems, but people are just swept up into this misunderstanding that they have to somehow go along and participate in it. And that's what needs to change, is people need to somehow wake up and have this paradigm shift where they realize that these people are actually harming them. They're destroying the planet. We can't keep on giving them, if we're participating in this, we're just as guilty. We're just as complicit. We need to pull ourselves out, do no harm.
To do as we're getting to the wall, when does the armed party begin? When do you bring violence?
I'd say we need to avoid that at all costs, because the military right now, there's no competing with that. You're not going to bring a gun and take on these people. That's just you're putting fuel to the fire. That's exactly what they want, is to react in a violent, aggressive way, because then they could just discount everything that you stand for, all the good behind it.
So they hear the violence but not the message.
Right. It's the easiest way to demonize and discount the thing. So it's like, if we want to get it across, it's very important that people are peaceful and nonviolent and just communicative. And I think that there's a whole spectrum of action that we could take that we're not, for lack of a better word, capitalizing on.
Right. But they're rolling over on that. They're rolling over on the people. I mean, they're overtaxing the people. If the founders of this government were alive today, they would rise against it. It's just a thing where you almost have to become the weatherman underground. But I completely understand what you're saying, that people would hear the explosion and not the message. They would see the detonations, and people that probably had nothing to do with the insinuation would die, and it'd just be a mess. And I could see how it feeds into it. But we're getting to a point of a crisis, using that word again, that we're just being so over inundated with this thing, with this legislation and government and structure and police system. It's a real tragedy.
And I think that there's things that we could do tactically that are nonviolent and peaceful, mainly in the lines of, hey, just creating the solution, enacting it, putting it on the table, making the alternative present, so that people could at least have the choice between the current system and the alternative. If the alternative's not out there, you have one choice. It's the lesser of two evils over and over. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think that there's a lot of actions that are peaceful and nonviolent that we could take, which will get us towards that goal that we're not utilizing as effectively as we can be. And that's what I'm trying to do I mean, I guess with the people that work here is, we're working on different projects, specific things, very tangible things to take us closer to that goal that we're talking about.
Where are you at with the third party system? This current two-party thing is almost becoming a joke.
Almost.
I mean, yeah, it's like ridiculous. They're mirroring each other. They're selling down this American populace into some kind of, as I said, some overtaxed conundrum or something. And is it really like damn near impossible to bring about a third party or what?
Well,
I mean, they do exist.
The problem is, take Illinois, for example. It's like they put every obstacle in the way to prevent independent candidates from being featured on the ballot. And that's what I think people need to realize is they say America's a democracy, and one, it's not. We're a republic, where we have representative democracy, quote unquote, alleged democracy. But really, if you look at the system, by design, they literally do every single thing they can to eliminate the democratic process. And for instance, independent candidates, just by the law in Illinois, Republicans and Democrats, they've become established candidates, so they need 5,000 signatures to get on the ballot in Illinois. If you're a presidential candidate or a gubernatorial candidate, independent candidates need 25,000 signatures by law. So just off the bat, you have 5 times as many signatures that are required. But the thing is, you actually need about twice that much, because what happens is the established parties will do whatever they can to try to disqualify the petition signatures and get them thrown off. So then the independent candidates would have to validate that those signatures are real. So, and this is done totally arbitrary. They'll just randomly strike names off a list and say, hey, the signature is not valid, and then the burden of proof is put on the independent party in order to validate it. So now they're not working on a campaign, they're not going door to door and canvassing, they're playing investigator and trying to track down 25,000 people and make sure that all the signatures are valid. And so therefore, it's just almost known by a rule of thumb. If you need 25,000 signatures, you really got to get about 40,000 signatures. And that's a hell of a lot more than the 5,000 signatures that are required for established parties, the Republicans or Democrats. So that's just one of the factors in the system that's really by design made to, thwart our democracy, made to exclude, independent candidates. So that's one of the problems with the system. And actually, we're trying to work to overcome this on the local level and see what can we do to, unify and build solidarity between all the different parties so that we're not battling each other, because we don't need to make it more difficult to get on the ballot. We kind of need to unify our support, and as long as there's someone that represents our grassroots values, regardless of their political party, if they're a Green Party, a Socialist, Libertarian, Justice Party, let's put our collective weight behind this person and not try to defeat us from getting on the ballot. So that's one thing that we're trying to figure out proactively on how to address this problem of, excluding candidates from
well, they're
from the
doing
debates.
it. I mean, I go right to the heart of intention. I mean, that you're bringing a threat to their power. Two-party system maintains 50-50 power. They're not into power sharing. I think that law you're speaking about is ridiculous. It needs to be thrown out and equalized. They're saying 5,000 signatures for whatever Republican or demon-o-cracy. I mean, to be honest, demon-o-cracy stems from the word demon. It's to be ruled by demons. So if you're in a democracy, it's Old Latin. It's an antiquity word, to be ruled by the demonic power. Yeah, DEMON-O-CRACY. Cracy is rulership. Demono is Satan. So we're dealing with the inherent nature of mankind's evil. But I mean, it is a threat to their power. But I think that law needs to be equalized and thrown out. Absolutely. I mean, that needs to be attacked. I mean, who put up that hurdle?
Well, one, you just have to realize, what is the threshold? I mean, obviously you can have 1,000 different political parties trying. Maybe that's a little bit unmanageable. But two? Two's the
it's horrible. Oh, my goodness.
It's 5, 7,
there's
10,
it's horrible.
Have more of a mix. But 2 is unacceptable.
Oh, no. It's been unacceptable. It's horrible. I can't believe it. I've been scratching my head about that for years.
That's one other thing. Is part of the problem that allows this to occur every year is that people believe that they only have two choices, when really there's other choices that are available. But for one, they're discluded from the debates. So actually last year in Chicago, or the last presidential election
I know,
cycle,
that's a
there's
tragedy.
the independent
I know,
debates
that's a tragedy.
between the Justice Party, Constitution Party, Libertarian Party, and the Green Party. And a presidential debate for independent candidates, it got no media attention whatsoever. Now, these independent candidates were already on the ballot in different states around the United States. So they were actually contending. It's not like they were some unknown people. These are pretty well-known.
They had already
independent
established
parties
their
that are,
signatures,
established
and
on
not
local
just
level.
fanatics.
And the debate was hosted by Larry King. And what was weird about it was, I was there covering it for Chicago Indie Media, and there was one other organization, I think, to Restore the Republic, that was local, but then there was Al Jazeera and RT
Right.
covering our local political date for the presidential candidates. Now, this didn't get any mainstream attention whatsoever. No one even knew that this debate had occurred.
Unbelievable.
And so that's one of the ways that they, by discluding these candidates from ever getting any airtime, from ever being seen on television, you could guarantee pretty much that they're not going to be able to contend, with the people in the big leagues. And then I guess it also goes back to the public's opinion, because ultimately it comes down to us. We need to be able to see through this manipulation. And what I hear too much is how, we got to choose the lesser of two evils, This happens over and
Well,
over.
they've created two
They're
evils.
both
I mean,
the
they're
same
it's,
thing. It's
yes.
both the right. You create this right and left paradigm to divide and conquer. You partition people's brain into
It's
one
black
or two
and white.
categories.
It's camping it
you're
into
with
one
us, you're
aspect.
against us, and you don't have any good choices. But people need to stop believing that, because one, and that gets back to the signature requirements for getting candidates on the ballot. One thing that people could know is that even if your person doesn't win, just voting for a candidate to begin with could be good for the next election cycle, because if you get, I think, like 5%, there's a certain number where if you get like 5% of the total amount of people who voted for that candidate, they'll actually become an established party by law, and then they'll be automatically featured on the next ballot with only 5,000 signatures the next year around. So it makes it easier in the long term. And that's something that's almost like just like another tactical thing for voting. So, you don't have to just think about the short term with, hey, we got to get this guy elected, this lady elected immediately, but actually putting that vote and taking it away from the Republicans or Democrats and putting it towards an independent party actually benefits in the long term and makes it easier to get recognized, to be established, so that the next time around people could look at the ballot and there's an actual choice printed on there for the independent candidate, because otherwise you have to write it in. And that's an unfair disadvantage.
There's been so many unfair disadvantages. These hurdles and these laws that are put in place that cage people into this whole prism of this us versus them, this evil selection of two separate evils. It goes right along with DEMON-O-CRACY. They're encamping and protecting their power. They're motivated by money. Where are you at with the amounts of outside money that are now allowed to be introduced in a certain push campaigns?
Well, yeah, it's obviously ridiculous. Especially with
the
Citizens United, money is speech,
money is
corporations
speech.
are people.
Yes.
It's bizarre to me. It's like
they can control so much. They're pushing so much out there, the amounts of money that are being
ridiculous.
spent.
There's over $1 billion spent in the presidential election. Think about how, in the 2012 cycle, $1 billion. Think about how much that could actually go towards benefiting, social programs.
It propped up the throne of the media. They made a lot of money during that cycle.
Oh, yeah. And that's some of the biggest advertisers are the political campaigns.
That is
and
the
that gets
advertiser.
into some of the, the conflict of interest with the media is how can you be critical of these political parties if you're dependent on the ad revenue? And then if people are promoting ads on a network, whether it's a political party, whether it's a company, they'll sign agreements saying, hey, you can't air anything that goes against our product or that will paint us in a bad image.
We'll pull our money.
Yeah, we're not going to air this commercial. And you have to sign an agreement that your program's censored. for the corporate advertisers. That's
My
just
brother's
something that
censor,
exists.
my brother's censor is alive and well in 2014. There's going to be some, not recent, but there are some elections on the horizon where the money is already being poured in, and companies are speech, and money is speech, and all this kind of thing. It's a mess, and I think that's going to influence so much more. It's just,
Well,
and
unfortunately, on our behalf right now, I think 7% of the people approve of Congress and the government. which
It's
is
not
the
even
lowest
true, though.
poll, maybe even less, but that's according to the Gallup poll.
who knows
whatever
what that
this
is,
poll
though?
is.
What is Congress, anyway? I mean,
But I'm just saying there was like 7% approval, which is the lowest percentage of approval in history, which shows that more people are more dissatisfied now than ever before. And I think people are waking up, especially with the internet. They're kind of realizing, hey, this is BS. We're not going to go along with this. These people are corrupt. It's a joke. And they don't want to, I think people are getting turned off from it. And now, another statistic is like during the time of the Revolutionary War and like our own American Revolution, I think it was Ben Franklin said, a third of the people are in favor, a third of the people are neutral, a third of the people are opposed. So it means that they had like 33% approval at that time, and only 30% in favor of actually going along with the revolution. So there's actually more people right now who are dissatisfied with the existing system than back when.
but
our
it goes
country
with
was
that
founded.
apathy. It goes with that apathy. People don't want to step out of their television cage. They don't want to be disrupted. They want to be content. Is if you flash little pretty lights in front of them in some kind of prism, their sensory stimulus keeps them enslaved into some kind of sheeple reality.
I'd argue that people don't necessarily want that, and I think that was what I was telling you before, is I don't believe that is the human way. I think that what's happening is understandable given the circumstances. Like, I could see why this is existing the way it is, why people are like that. Because, if you look at the history of the amount of scientific study that goes into like psyops, psychological warfare, that's a thing that exists. That's part of the Army field manual. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This is something that's been
what we're discussing today is
mechanized.
not conspiracy. We're talking today actual real things that can be done to maybe create a transition, possibly create a third party, and to break out of this selection process that we're being forced into by the United States government and by the global banking system. And everything we're talking about, is not conspiracy. These other people or different individuals that I meet, they want to go conspiracy. That doesn't mean anything. Illuminati concepts is something, yes, they may exist, or the banking system, as a unified group working together does kind of form a Illuminati because they are all going one direction through greed. I can understand that. But these other people are so out of the box, and they talk about some of these extraordinary things. But what you and I are discussing are actual things that are tangible and real that can be done to supplement some of this nonsense. If people are going to break out of their apathy, I don't know what's going to do it. I'm concerned that in the future, at least through my viewing of it, is that as we run out of things, fossil fuels and other things that will break our contentment level, that's when they're finally going to be agitated. As I've said, a man deprived is beast. So it seems that that's almost the crisis point where we're going to reach.
I think I mentioned this before, that there's no lacking of things that would agitate a person. There's plenty of crises to pick from. There's plenty of things that we should be
Invented or
shocked
real.
and horrified about right now. So I don't think it's going to take anything more. Like, we don't have to invent something or do something else. Those things are already occurring in sufficient amount that we should be very concerned and motivated. I think the problem is, once again, is that people are being desensitized. There's this veil over the truth. And this is what, getting back into my point before, like, I don't think that people are naturally supposed to be like this. I think that this is conditioning. This is something that's, like I was getting into psychological warfare and psyops. They have a very mechanized system where they've experimented on human beings in very gruesome ways. They've brought the Nazi scientists over to the United States because they wanted that information. They wanted to know the breaking points of humans, how people are vulnerable on every single level. And they study that more thoroughly and have more information than any other institution that's ever existed. And they're utilizing that to keep people in control. And they know exactly like what makes people react in certain things, using hypnosis, using, subliminal messages, using arts and media. They've got the whole gamut pretty much on lockdown, where they're utilizing it all for this purpose. And that being the case, when you look at the consolidation of media and how 6 corporations control 95% of all the TV, radio, billboards, movie studios, music studios, advertisements, internet companies, cable, satellite, there's 6 corporations that control that. And so there's never been a time in history when the consolidation of media has been at this point. Like if people were 100 years ago trying to control the population like they're doing today, it would be more difficult because you have all these independent publications. There's not this just massive propaganda machine that's on overdrive that's just perpetuating and pervasive across the entire planet. So being that's the case, that this exists and it's in motion at full force, I understand why people react the way they do. I understand why people turn out and are apathetic and unmotivated and, are materialistic or greedy or selfish. It all makes sense when somebody who's, scientifically analyzed how to manipulate people to do that, and then actually implemented the sick, twisted fantasy and go to the extent of taking all of our technology and putting it on overdrive to gain this effect. Yeah, I can understand that that's the way it is right now. But I don't think that that's in human nature. I think that people are exploiting human nature. They're manipulating human nature. But I think that there is another half where if we conditioned and nurtured that other half, the positive half, with the same intensity that we're nurturing this greed, selfishness, and materialism, I think that's essentially the revolution in itself. It's all about the revolution of the mind. I think our mind is going to lead the way. If we could see the truth and just imagine that and understand what's going on, it's like we'll lead ourselves there. We will willfully act to take us to that path. But if our mind is being manipulated, disoriented, distorted, then I can understand why people are going down the wrong path. So I think that's where the battle lies. It's in the minds of the people. So how do we utilize our own media, social media,
well, that's a whole other hurdle.
To get these truths out to the public.
That's a whole other hurdle. Right now we have this school to prison pipeline. The average person has an 8th grade education. It seems that there is a problem that is inherent within the system itself, and a lot of third world countries are really crashing in on us as the United States. The United States is actually very dumbed down. The apathy is set in just because of something that we had spoken about earlier, this job to crunch rat race reality. It's very hard to break out of that. People don't want to risk that. There's a lot of threat to that. They want to keep their contentment. The system is geared in a demon-O-CRACY to keep those people in that cage and these rats that are running around. But not to be too pessimistic, I totally do think that something has to change. If it doesn't change, we're going to hit that crisis wall. Again, there are a lot of crises, but we are scratching the bottom of the barrel with this fracking and these other things. We are going to run out of fossil fuels. In turn, we were going to run out of our ability to make food. We are going to starve ourselves into oblivion. It's an inevitability. There are some things that are occurring in our world, even with the weather climate changes. We've altered it so extremely much, with the methane being released in combination with the carbon dioxide, which will just totally vaporize our atmosphere. And the planet is going to be coming like these 100-year weather events every day. It's going to be interesting in the next few years how our technology routes, or how these Illuminati intensity groups are working to achieve their own kind of global domination. They have achieved global insinuation through the media. And I think it's interesting that you have actually gone out and attacked the media. I thought that was amazing. You know,
That's one of the groups that often isn't on the
that's
radar.
the main thing.
And that's something that's like the linchpin in the whole system. It's like if you're an anti-war activist,
Report the
if you're an
truth.
environmental activist, whatever your cause is, if the public doesn't hear it, if they're not turning on the TV and hearing about it on the news, it's like your cause can't get the impact that it needs to actually be successful in the campaign. So the media being the gatekeepers, it's relevant for whatever the social justice initiative that you're fighting for is. And I think the media is one of those things that really ties it all together, that we could all get together and be like, hey, this is an important issue that we all need to face. And for too long, there hasn't been a very big movement of people recognizing it. There's people who protest against the war and protest against fracking.
They protest, but
the
it
media's
seems
been
almost
off
meaningless.
the radar, and that's one of the things that we were trying to do, is be like, hey, this has to be something that we're focusing on, and we need to create these kind of publicity stunts just to get this information to the public. People have to start questioning the media, not just blindly accepting, passively accepting everything that comes across the screen.
It's
as being
coming
truth.
to where we have a two-party system, the Republicans and the Democrats, and it's coming to the point where we have a two-party media, being MSN and Yahoo, and that's where everyone goes. We're all in all these various options. That's all people are being spoon-fed. That's where they're going. They're going MSN and Yahoo to those media channels, and they're going to their two-party system. Is it some kind of thing? Are they just being lazy? That's part of it too.
What we're trying to do is create this media awareness campaign with two-part mission. One, to recognize the problems with the mainstream media, and I guess the second part being that there's alternative sources, there's independent media out there that you should participate in, and you should go to and check out the other sources. And that was our mission, to get people to turn off the mainstream and then tune in to like independent voices and alternatives. And if that's part of the thing, just getting that awareness out there to the public.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as it goes. And I'm Winter Lake, and you're listening to the Pentacle-Hours between 5 and 7 p.m. live here in Chicago Central Standard Time. And we shall be back shortly.
Baby, we're running out of money. Honey, we're running out of dough. I'm turning back to the man that I once was, but it was fun to fool them for a while. Finally, those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. Good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. Everyone smiles for a sad song, especially when they're riding high. But right now, it's a crying shame that the good times are coming to an end. Finally, those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. All those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. I won't miss those fancy dinners, won't even miss those fancy clothes. I won't miss that girl I love. I'm just turning back to the man I once was. Good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. All those good times are coming, those good times are coming. The good times are coming to an end. Finally, those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. All those good times are coming, those good times in a fiery bash, and the rest were put up in smoke. Finally those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. All those good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. All those good times are coming, those good times are coming now. Good times are coming, those good times are coming now. Good times are coming, those good times are coming. Good times are coming to an end. Good times are coming to an end.
Let's keep the good times going, I say. I'm going to have some champagne before I go dancing tonight. I know that. This balmy 40-degree weather compared to minus 40. That was ball-busting, to be honest. But kind of exhilarating, too, when you're lighting off fireworks at your neighbor's apartment just down below or something and having these massive explosions. I was doing a tad bit more of that last night. Hopefully I won't get arrested. I doubt I will. I'm just playing around. I would never do such a thing in my life. I would never, do such disorderly conduct or act crazy. I don't think so. But it was nice chatting a little bit of a glimpse of the media issues and a little bit of a glimpse into, what is our two-party demon-O-CRACY ruled by demons situation as it stands right now. And I go on about it a little bit. I skirt the political genre. I'm not really a political person. I'm just more into my own black magic thing and witchcraft, occult, psychic, extraterrestrial reality. But I do touch ground a tad with some of the things that are going on in our government. We are definitely being hoodwinked into a lot of things that will come and visit itself upon our children at a later date, unfortunately. Unless there is some kind of drastic revolution, it hopefully will be, to be honest, in my opinion, nonviolent, because I do agree that if one does go violent, as it is against a current structure, then all the people will remember is the explosion and not the message. So we'll be caught up in all of that kind of misnomer of our contrarian nature, as we are a society that is inverted in upon itself. We definitely do things that are kind of anathema to what would be more positive to us. But maybe that's how we all get off. I don't know. But, looking at the situation as it is, I don't know. I think that probably things will work out fine. A lot of different realities, a lot of things are coming together in today's society, kind of a renaissance of our existence with the internet and with new technology. So there's a lot of positivism with it as well. Plus, when the aliens come and visit and start eating us, that will definitely take care of our population problem too, as we are probably just a harvester planet for a later date to just be devoured. But you think they would have done it by now, although they probably forgot about us. I don't know. But overall, in looking at some of the substructure of our current environment, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think our two-party system will ever end? I don't know.
Well, I think it will pretty soon.
Yeah? You going to lead the way?
Leading my own way. But I guess I got to step out, but I just wanted to say one last thing, which is we touched on a lot of things that are, kind of heavy.
That's what happens here on the Pentacle-Hours, brother.
But on the same note, I think, we got to be positive, and it's all about staying in touch with the spirit. Just keeping that positive vibe going, because we're energy, and we got to, in order to make that change that we want to see in the world, we got to make sure that we ourselves are grounded and positive and loving and kind and happy, because that's the best way to just create that world. So that's my last note.
Well, I know. That's why we're going to have some jazz. We're going to drink some champagne and have a good time.
That's all about.
See y'all later.